We just swapped everything from this PC into this PC. Customer request, he wants to travel with this one more. Come see how we do it. All right, customer brought it in. Guess he travels a lot and he wants to build his PC into a smaller chassis so he can bring it on the plane. He wasn't too interested in going ITX, so he decided to go the MATX route. Doesn't look like a lot, but in your luggage, it adds up. All right. First, we're gonna have to pull all of his old components out. There we go. And we'll start with the graphics card. All right. There we go. And there. Nice 4070 Ti. All right. And because he's on a riser and that's attached directly to the motherboard, we're gonna have to pull that out as well. Whew. Now I know the customer also requested if we could add the other fan onto it, if it'll fit. I don't think it's going to fit here without covering his RAM, so we can always put it on the rear in his other chassis. Honestly, I really like this case. It's the Height Y40, and it's really ideal. It's a little bit thicker this way for GPU room than the Y60. However, the Y70, obviously, they've accommodated for the thicker GPUs now as well. There we go. All right, time to lay this on its back while we disconnect everything and pull the motherboard. Ooh. There we go. Oh, he actually had quite a bit plugged in back here. I see he's got the AK620 digital. It's a great cooler. Shows your temperatures. It'd be nice if you guys could see the temperature it is up here right now. It's pretty toasty upstairs.
It is toasty in here.
Yeah. Grab some cable ties here. See what I do have to cut and what I can get away with. We are going to need his power supply, so anything touching that is going to have to go. There, so far we've already freed his graphics card and 95% of his power supply. I just have to get the CPU power out, which is going to be a little tricky. Luckily they have a little hatch up here. There we go. All right, now that we've freed the power supply and the graphics card, it's time to take out this motherboard so we can start transferring everything from this motherboard to his new motherboard to fit this smaller case. And this particularly ATX motherboard only takes 6 screws. Jesus shaved off a tiny bit on the end of it. I really like Heights cases, but this little riser cable, it fights you all the way through. You can technically remove it, but that's just more hassle, and then you have to remember to reinstall it. And this case does not support normal mounting. It has to be vertically mounted. I think you might be able to fit a half-height card in here, but nobody's buying this case to put a half-height card and not use the riser cable. There we go. All right. I wonder what I'm getting caught up on.
Something catching it in?
Yep, and I bet you I know what it is. That is exactly what I thought it was. There we go. There we go. It's time to start pulling this all apart, transferring it onto the new case, or the new motherboard. I can adjust this fan. I'm going to take that fan right out. There we go. It's a nice cooler. There we go. There we go. Looks like someone used a little bit extra thermal paste, but it was pretty good.
Do you need alcohol?
You don't need alcohol per se, but it does help you get every little bit off. We just don't need every little bit. We're gonna reapply it. This paste isn't necessarily old or dry. We just want to clean it off. Make sure that, you know, we're not mixing up old and new. There we go. Now we're going to need the mounting hardware for this cooler. Perfect. Sometimes these screws are on a little tight and I just cut up my glove right there. There we go. That one's tight. There we go. And I'm just going to grab a fresh glove so this one isn't just torn up to little bits. And this is what was holding us back before. So the cable was pinched in between there. Looks like he's got a 13600K. No contact frame, which makes my life a little easier for swapping it. But you don't need one for an i5, which is great. Realistically, you don't need them overall, but they do very much help, especially LGA 1700. It's known for warping and not making full contact. Just got to remove his RAM now. There we go. What size kit was he running? Oh wow, he had 128 gigs in here. All right, now we just need to get his NVMe's out. There we go. And he has a WD Black 1 terabyte drive. Keep all of his motherboard parts together, as we don't know what he's doing with it. Now I'm losing out a little bit going from a Z790 down to a B760, but I think this is just what was readily available for him. And you know, there's no compatibility issues. It's just the B760 is kind of not unlocked for overclocking. And one thing I've noticed, regardless, if you go smaller in form factor, you tend to start losing some features. This is a nice motherboard though. Surprised it has 2 USB 3.0 headers, Type C. Not a crazy amount of fan headers, but we don't need a lot, so that's always good, especially with an air cooler. Now we gotta do everything in reverse. Drop that processor in. There we go. We're gonna have to mount up his cooler, which These should all be in the far out position. There we go. That is one thing I do. Like Deepcool does a very simple mounting system. And generally most of them are pretty simple, but some of them take a little additional assembly. Obviously some of them use like AMD, they use the stock mounts. Those can't get much more simple than that. But with Intel, they don't really have anything except for a couple holes, so it normally comes with backplate and hardware that you normally have to build up. Sometimes you have to build up the backplate even. All right, and did I bring any extra thermal paste up here? I'm not sure if I did.
I swear there's always thermal paste lying around here now that we need it.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're normally tripping over it up here.
I'm here to steal something.
No.
It's really expensive and tasty. Thermal paste.
Delicious. I have some. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Would you have a specific kind that you want? I have
like a strawberry thermal paste.
I only have.
No, it's got to be Nutella.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say.
Perfect.
Here you go.
All right, thank you.
No worries. It's the only one I had.
Oh no.
Apparently Nutella was the wrong flavor.
Yeah, no, it's the only one I had.
I want the grape flavored. Really? I know you have more thermal paste up here. You normally have some in these drawers.
Yeah. Oh, is there?
Whoa, what's this? What's this? This guy's holding out the good stuff, guys.
I'm so sorry.
Which camera's on? This one? He had EK.
Oh no.
Ecotherm.
The Ecotherm.
Yeah, you're holding that.
This was the orange flavor.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's my personal stash. You guys can't. But now that you found it, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's stolen.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
No worries.
All right. Time for just a little bit of thermal paste. I personally prefer a very light X. So I do not know the viscosity of this thermal paste, so I'm just waiting to see how it comes out. All right. That's a little heavier than I was expecting, but I find the X gives me good results. It spreads out, especially on these LGA 1700s. It's kind of an elongated situation. I just gotta add these little brackets back on. Even still, probably should have slid in the RAM first, but I'm sure I can fit it in. Just want to get this all ready. These swaps don't normally take very long. Case swaps in general, especially when you're not switching motherboards, they're normally rather quick. It depends on the case and the build, obviously, but on average, in 20 to 40 minutes. But, you know, you don't need to change a case very often, but with a 3-year warranty, you can get sick of a case within 3 years. I know my personal system is in a Y60 and it has 2 custom loops, and I am very over it already, very over it. The maintenance I have to do is very, very tight. There we go. And we will slot these all back in real quick. I'll try to get a better angle. Very surprised this guy has 128 kicks. I wonder how many chrome windows he keeps open.
That's like 7 Chrome tabs.
Yeah, oh, a whole 7 Chrome tabs. Maybe one of them watching one of our YouTube videos, like this one. All right, this is directional. It has a little channel for the cables. So while you can mount it either which way, it's probably best to stick with the way it was meant to. And just trying to get that lined up. Go back and forth, just try to give it even mounting pressure. Helps spread that thermal paste nice and equally as we tighten it down. You know, if you tighten down one side, you might squeeze it all up to the top, or there we go. This is a great cooler. I praise it rather heavily. All right. Now we're gonna see if we can add his other fan later on like he requested, but I think that we're gonna have to put it on the back. And because we're gonna do that without covering up his RAM, I'm actually going to attach this middle fan to the front heatsink. It probably doesn't make a big difference, but whatever static pressure comes off of this fan, I would rather it be attached to have them each attached to one instead of both of them attached to the same tower. I will simply sleep better at night knowing that. There we go. And technically speaking, this is just magnetized. Goes like that. Now let's see if we can clean up his cables here too, because there is a channel just for these cables. It's just very, 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 very tight. There we go. I'm sure Deep Cool wants their stuff looking nice and good on camera, as it should. One last thing, we have to install the NVMe back into it. This motherboard, the heatsink kind of overtakes this slot, but not enough that we can't install it. Again, probably something that'd be better done before putting the cooler on, but not a deal breaker in this situation. There we go. Luckily, a lot of these companies like MSI and Gigabyte and all of them, they're kind of doing like a toolless thing now where you don't have to put a screw down and it holds it in place. Is this a 770 or nope, it's an SN850X. It's a great NVMe. I praise it heavily. I think I'm running a 770 still, but that was from before the 850 was kind of readily available. There we go. Now that this is all connected, I'm gonna try to fit his other fan on the rear. I'm pretty certain it will fit. It will just be overhanging his heatsink here. Told me it was in here. I'm hoping the clasps to hold it down, which it is on here. Perfect. And because we're doing it in pull, I got to turn the clasp back over. The little retentions that hold it down. Now the only thing that could interfere here is the heat, or the IO shield. And it looks like it really doesn't. It gets close, but it doesn't really interfere. Perfect. And I want to try to make this cable go under it. So it's just not in the way. Alrighty, I guess it's time to start packing stuff into the new box, the new chassis. Has a nice little fan splitter here, so we can run both fans off the same header. There we go. I like this case. It's the Fractal Pop Mini Air, and it will look very tight when it's all built, especially with the graphics card, because this only really supports 3 slots. But it will look really good. I'm a big fan of Fractal cases. Honestly, there's not a lot of cases I have a strong dislike for. Normally it's just like the build complexity changes, but even still, Sometimes it's worth the extra effort, depending on the features that the case supports. Yeah. This case comes with a nice ARGB controller, though I am going to use the motherboard headers because it has them, and that's just easier. Fractal likes to put these little stickers on. I'll pull that off after. One thing I left in the motherboard box that we do need. They normally like to hide it underneath with the Wi-Fi antennas. There we go. Make sure the customer gets all of his old parts back and his boxes. He can do with them as he pleases. He can bring them back to us and ask us to build another system for him. There we go. This is a crucial step. A lot of people forget to put these little back plates in. And then afterwards they have a very wonky looking back I/O. It's just better to have it and remember it before you put your motherboard in, because it is a hassle to pull your motherboard back out. In the shorts, you probably see me just pick it up and put it in there. That's for the camera angle. We have an overhead camera here, so I can show off how easy it is in this sense as well. The only thing that's kind of tricky with this, besides the table having cable combs that catches these cables, is the cooler has a magnetic plate on it that has that digital display. Once you line it up, there's normally one on these fractal cases that holds the motherboard into place. Makes it very simple. I like how Fractal also sorts their bits in individual bags, and their motherboard screws, they only give you just enough. So you can always tell which one is for the motherboard screws because it has very little screws in it. And on a normal case, if you're putting an MATX motherboard in, you have to move a couple of the standoffs to make it fit. But this case was made strictly for MATX, making it so all the standoffs are already where they need to be for this motherboard. Saves me a huge hassle. All right. This is going to be tricky. I can already tell that this cooler barely has enough space. It's good. It'll be very, very tight.
Might touch the glass, you're saying?
Yeah, it'll almost be right up against the glass, but it does have enough space. Now I just need to make sure that I can squeeze in the CPU fan connectors to the proper channel. Man, that is really tight. I should have done that before. All right. There we go. Got to pass through all of our cables to the rear. There we go. Now the only thing I see being difficult in this case is probably going to be plugging in the CPU power connectors right above here. It's going to be very, very, very tight fit, but it will look good. Plug in some fan connectors here. Luckily, the fans on this case all daisy chain, making it very easy and only uses one header for all the case fans. Could not appreciate that more. Now it's just the ARGB, which is up here. There we go. From here, we just have the front I/O to plug in, HD audio, power switch, and a USB connector that's directly for this screen. And there we go. Interestingly enough, several different forms of front panel connectors that connect you to your power button, the lights on the top, reset button, stuff like that. And they either come individual, where you have to plug in 1 or 2 pins at a time, or it comes as a whole, one big piece you just slide over. This one simply only comes with 2 pins just for the power button. Everything else, and it's actually really nice. Instead of me having to fight with it, I know exactly where these 2 pins slide on. And the hardest part with the individual ones is they tend to, as you pull back to line up the next one, sometimes you pull the last pin off and it gets rather frustrating. You can ask any PC builder, that's probably one of their least favorite parts. It's not horrible, it's just, it's nobody's favorite. And with all the changes they make to these computers, you think that'd be one thing they would prioritize or think about changing first. There we go. Luckily, this case comes with some Velcro straps, though I do have some zip ties that I will probably add after the fact. The real trick to cable management is to do it as you build. It'll save you a ton, especially at the end. I like to try to keep my cables rather sorted. When I have like a liquid cooler, I try to keep all those cables together and separated from the rest. That way, if the cooler ever fails or needs to be swapped, you don't have to uncut every single piece in the back of your PC, every single zip tie off, and then redo all your cable management. It's just a little tip and trick I like to use a lot. All right, we're almost there already. It's just a power supply and graphics card. Now, since we switched brands of motherboard, we might have to play with some drivers, but we'll do that off screen. Sometimes drivers can conflict with each other from different motherboard brands. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes we do a full clean install. But I'm sure this customer would like to keep as much of his current data as he already has, as nobody wants to start all over again. There we go. It's a good old EVGA power supply. I miss EVGA graphics cards. I still have one at my house. I think I might just hold on to it indefinitely, just as a reminder.
Maybe frame it.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it up on a wall.
See, I kind of wish it was broken, because then I could just justify doing that. But it's not broken, it works. All right. Now I see he only had one CPU connector hooked up to this system. This one takes 8 plus 4 pins. Generally speaking, just having 8 plugged in is fine. It's not going to cause any issues. Those additional ones are normally for overclocking. However, this motherboard's locked for overclocking as well. So, not quite sure why they have that many, but they do. And we only have enough to plug in the necessity. And this is the part I thought was going to be a pain in the butt. There we go. Actually wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. We got to plug in the 24-pin motherboard. We've already done the CPU. All that's left now is the GPU. So it's time to add that. I might pre-route the cables just because I know this is a very, very tight case. Let's see. That is going to be very, very tight. All right, pins on the bottom, latch on top. The new connector that these 40 series are using, I don't know why there was no standard or discussion on a standard, but some of them have it upside down, some of them have it, I wouldn't say right side up because I don't know which way is the proper way or how it was intended. I like it when the clip is on top, like this one. But that's because if the cable's getting pulled on or anything like that, the latch will hold it in place. But same can be said if you plugged it in from the top. All right. Just because this is such a tight case, I'm probably going to put this on its back just to slide this in. And I thought I was going to pre-route these cables, but looks like it gave me enough space to do it after. There we go. That is very tight. I am impressed with this motherboard. The more I look at the different headers, it has multiple ARGB headers. You know, it still has 4 SATA port connectors. It's a pretty nice motherboard. Given that it's a B series, I would happily use it. Now it's just to route this in the correct way. I just seen there's a nice gap right here. Perfect. 1 or 2 zip ties in the back, and it'll be in pretty good shape. There we go. Put this back on top. Slide his back panel back on. Maybe turn around and show you guys how the cable management turned out first. Not my greatest, but it's not my worst. It comes with some Velcros, which is nice. A couple extra zip ties here and there to hold everything down. But we got to make sure everything closes securely and everything stays in place. We don't want cables coming undone in transportation, especially because this customer does plan on taking it on a plane. There we go. And it's time for the moment of truth. Time to see if this PC turns on. Perfect. Actually looks quite well. Everything fit nicely. Just to show a good reference of how tight that air cooler is in here. He probably has less than 5 millimeters between the glass. It was a good fit. We got that extra fan on his cooler. That basically wraps this up. I really appreciate you guys watching the video. You should definitely keep it up as we have a great giveaway coming up in a Y60 that's all water cooled with a distro from AlphaCool. It's going to be all AlphaCool fittings. Water cooling comparts in total. I don't want to be too big of a spoiler, but I can tell you that there will be a 4080 in it, 4080 Super. And it's gonna look really nice, really clean. And yeah, keep it up, everyone.